In today's video, I want to take a quick and easy photo of this lovely orange flower. So I'm going to show you the breakdown of exactly how I take this photo. So I've not played around with my macro photography all that much recently, and it's a bit of a shame because I do so enjoy doing it. So what I wanted to do is take a moment to spend some time at home and just take a really nice, quick and easy photo. So I found this flower. It's actually just from a bouquet from Aldi. It cost me, I think, £3 for the whole bouquet. So this does represent very good value for a subject. Now, this one in particular stood out to me because we've got these nice velvety leaves. We've got the contrast between the leaves and the stamen in the middle. I love the vibrant orange color. So I just thought it would be quite an easy one to take a photo of. I'm going to be using skills like focus stacking, lighting, maybe even some light blending. I've also got a bottle of water in a spray on standby in case I want to add some of that in. I'm not quite sure yet. We're going to play around and see what we can get. So I've got the flower by itself in this tall glass, and that just helps it stand up, but you could also just sort of clamp it between a couple of books or something to get it standing upright. Because what I want to get is just a photo of the flower by itself. I'm not interested really in it being part of a busy bouquet. I want to simplify that scene, just focus on this flower in particular. So I'm going to turn my camera on and have a quick look. Right now I have got my 35mm macro lens on the front, and I've chosen that because it gives a wider angle view, so I can get close up to the flower to get those macro details, but it actually gives me a wide enough view that I'm going to be able to capture all of the flower. So you can see the scene on the back of camera. We've got the flower filling the frame, but we're quite low, so we're sort of looking across the flower rather than at it. And while I do like that angle generally, it's a little bit too low because we're basically sort of looking into the edges of these petals. So I am just going to raise the camera up by a few inches, something like this, and then adjust the position downwards. And I think that is already looking like a slightly nicer view. Right now I have got purple background paper. That's just what was up there already. I don't necessarily think I'm going to use it, although even just looking on the back of camera, I actually do like that color contrast between the orange and the purple, so I may end up using it. But I'm going to start off just taking a photo with a natural light so you can see this frame. Manually focusing right now in the middle of the flower, f6.3, and I'm going to need a very slow shutter speed, half a second, and it's basically fine. But I would say it is a very forgettable photo. So what I'm going to do is turn on my light, and you can see here I've already got one set up. This is my Godox V1. It's a speed light, but it also works with the on-camera trigger so that I can use it off camera. So in this instance, I've got it off to the left of the flower, shooting inwards, and I'm hoping that that's going to give some nice shadow definition and really help kind of separate some of those petals. I've also got a Magmod diffuser on the front, and that just helps soften the light ever so slightly. So if I turn this on, turn this on, so I'll just take this up to f16 just to start with the flash power. See where we go. I'm going to bring my aperture up to f9, and because I don't want any of the ambient light now, I'm going to bring my shutter speed up. Actually, let's leave my shutter speed kind of where it was, about 1/3 of a second. And we'll take the shot. And actually, you can immediately see the difference that has made. I have slightly darkened down that ambient light, but bringing in that flash is making a nice bit of difference in our shot. What I'm going to do is just take that same shot again, this time with a much faster shutter speed. I'm going to be at 200th of a second. And you can see immediately the huge difference that that makes in our photo, because that has essentially killed all of our ambient light entirely. So we've now essentially just got a dark room and just the flower is being lit. In fact, if I turn this trigger off so the flash doesn't fire, take the same shot again, then yeah, as far as I can see on the back of camera, we've just got a black frame. So none of this light. I've got a window open, I've got a big LED light up here that I'm using to film myself. None of that is being captured. That's great. That means that we've got total control over that light. And actually, I think f16 F9 and a 16th for the power. It looks okay. It definitely needs to be a little bit brighter though than a 16th, because I think it's looking a little bit dark. We need a bit more flash power. So I'm going to bring it up to an 1/8 power. Take that shot again. That's still looking a little dark actually to my eye, and that's because it isn't actually controlling the power of the flash at all. The flash still thinks it is at a 64th power. So let's take it up. Okay, we're taking it up to f32. That's more like it. That looks great. Yeah, really nice. A nice even light across that flower, but because it's coming in at that angle, we've got the nice shadows underneath some of those petals, and that is what's giving us that nice separation. As you can see, I've got the light on a stand at the moment, but I can just take that off. And quite often I will hand hold the flash because it makes it much easier just to get that light in exactly the right position. I had it on the stand just because it makes it a little bit easier when I'm filming these videos. But just to give you an idea, I haven't changed my settings, but I can bring the flash off more to the side and create even more depth of those shadows. I could even bring it slightly below. That doesn't really work. I could slightly backlight it and create some much moodier textures. I could try it from the other side. Something like that. Again, we're just sort of edge lighting that flower, which I actually think looks pretty cool. You can sort of see the light in shot there. And again, you can. Yeah, we could even bring it fully in from above, something like this. I don't like that from above because it's quite a flat looking shot, because it's just coming straight down onto those petals, and as a result, we're not kind of getting that same shadow. I do actually like it where it was, sort of up here, because I think that is the nicest blend between getting the whole flower head lit, but still keeping those shadows. So I'm going to put it back on this stand. So I'm going to take a shot using the light as it is right now, but I'm going to focus stack the image because even at f9, I'm focused right on the middle. And if I take that shot, the middle is nice and in focus, but you can clearly see that as you get towards the petals at the back of the image, they fall out of focus, and similarly the ones right at the front also not in focus. So I'm going to do a manual focus stack here, just turning my focus wheel. I'm going to start right on the front of the image, and I'm going to try and keep everything as still as I can. I'm not going to move around because every time I move, the flower wobbles. And if it's wobbling in my image, it's going to be very difficult to stack. So trying to keep as still as possible is crucial here. So I'm going to take my first shot, my next one. In fact, no, I'm going to start again. Right back to the front. First things first, I just put my hand in front of the lens. This way, when I look back at all of these photos, it could be 70, 80, it could be 300 photos, however many I take in this video, I know exactly where this focus stack sequence is taking place. It just makes my life much, much easier. So again, I'm just focusing right on that closest tip of that petal. Take my shot, and I'm just going to keep shooting, slightly turning that focus wheel, moving that focus across the flower, getting towards the middle of it now, and moving towards the petals on the back, making sure that those far tips are nice and in focus as well. So I'm pretty sure this is going to focus stack fairly easily because it is just a standard shot, and I do quite like the look of this vibrant orange flower against the black background. I love how well it stands out. What I am going to do next though is basically do the same thing, but I'm going to give it a nice little spritz of water because it looks a little bit dry, a little bit dusty, but I kind of think that having some nice water droplets on there, it's going to look really nice, particularly if I can get some bigger globules of water right on those front petals. And specifically, if I just take that shot now, oh yeah, suddenly it's covered in all these beads that shine like crystals because this light is bouncing off them. So I'm going to put a few more on here, right on these front bits. Okay, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing again. Hand in front of a frame just to give me that reference point, and I'm going to shoot, turn, shoot, And I think that's just giving an extra little element to the flower, and it's so easy to do if you've got just a spray bottle like this. But what I'm going to try next is actually bringing in a second light for the background, because I do really like that we've got this lovely purple color, which is a nice complementary tone to the orange of the flower itself. So the great thing about working with Godox lights is that I've got here an AD100 Pro, but it works on the exact same system as the V1 here. So what I can hopefully do is turn this on. I'm going to put this at a 32 as well, actually a little bit higher because the background is further away and I want to try and light up a bit more of it. So I'm going to have this at f16, sorry, at not a 16th power. And I'm not going to put it on a stand, I'm literally just going to put it on this table, vaguely point it. I want it to be behind the flower, so the flower is nicely in this pool of light. And let's just focus on the middle of the flower and take a shot, see what this looks like. Okay. Light-wise, it's looking okay. It needs to be brighter, but the bigger problem now is my composition, because I can now see that there is a line of the table that I'm shooting on in the image, which does not look good. So I'm going to have to just slightly lower the camera, almost back to where we were before. I'm going to slightly back it away as well, and then just move my composition up a little bit like this. And actually, you know what, let's get slightly closer to it. So let's just try this again. No, I can still see some of it. That's a shame. Okay, what am I going to use to solve this? I need a box of some kind, because I want to just lift the flower up, and this way I'm shooting much more towards the background. The stuff down below is no longer important. What have I got? What have I got? Just a box of stuff. That will do fine. Okay, we've just popped it on another box. Great stuff. Now I can bring the light up. I'm going to have to adjust this. Still at f9, 200th of a second. Okay, that definitely looks better. I like the fact that because the light is creating only a fairly narrow circle on the background, it's almost sort of creating a natural vignette around the flower itself. If you didn't want a vignette, you could move the light away so it's not casting so much of a circle, but you would need to really increase the power. Maybe something like that. If I brought it back down to, let's say, an 8th power, but put on a modifier, maybe the mag scoop, mag hood, mag bounce, I think. Oh, it's a mag bounce, yes. Of course, because you're bouncing the light. And what if I put that like this? What would happen then? It hasn't worked as I intended, but I like that more. Okay, happy accident. Let's just turn the power of that background light up. That's great. That's better. Yeah, I actually really like that. Yeah, it is a more even light. We've slightly got we've got less of that vignette. It's actually giving it kind of a commercial look. So it's now looking like the sort of macro shot that might be used for like stock imagery, that sort of thing, which is not normally a look that I want to go for, but it's certainly, it stands out. So what I'm going to do, now we've got our lighting all set up and the lighting isn't going to change, I'm going to do another hand in front of a lens. Now we can see where the focus stack is about to start, and I'm going to do the exact same thing as before, close focusing on the closest tip, and then we're going to take a shot. And I'm going to then move the focus, take the shot, move the focus, take the shot, and so on, all the way across the flower. Well, I am going to play around with the setup a little bit more. I'm going to try some other versions of this, but my process is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to have my lights, and I'm going to have the spray bottle, and I'm going to use focus stacking. But for now, let's take the shot that we've just taken over into Lightroom, and I will show you exactly how I use focus stacking software and Photoshop to blend this all together. So I brought all the photos into Lightroom, and it's really easy to see how that light has changed as we've moved it around. Here it was very dark, and then we moved it over here and it was in the shot, but I quite like the backlighting on the petals, to be honest. And then we've actually done some of our stacking, and we can see as that focus point moves through the flower. The ones that I want to show, though, are these ones here. I've done a couple of tiny little tweaks to the highlights and shadows, as you can see, but otherwise it is pretty much straight out of camera. But I really like how these look. I love the vibrant nature that the way that they stand out against the background. So because I have been so clever in putting the hand in front of a lens, so we've got that nice marker of when the stack starts, it's very easy for me to select here and then select here, all of these, and then export them. Because I'm working in standard Lightroom rather than Lightroom Classic, I can't open as layers in Photoshop, which is fine because I'm not using Photoshop. I'm actually going to be using Helicon Focus, which is a dedicated piece of software for focus stacking, and I find it does a far better job than Photoshop's merge tool, especially if you're working with more than 3 or 4 layers. So if you are interested in macro focus stacking, definitely look at getting Helicon Focus, that's what it's called. So I'm going to go right click, export, export. I'm going to export them as TIFF, full size, and I can export them to their own folder, just like this. And now we can open Helicon Focus. I can open a new document, select all of those photos, and it's loaded them up in the side. We just press render. Method B usually does a good job. And then I just get to watch as it all gets pieced together, which always, I think, looks like quite a satisfying process. Cool, and then it's done. Let's have a look at it full screen. Yeah, I think this looks great. It's pin sharp across the entire flower. That looks really nice. It's done such a good job, but we have taken many photos. We've given Helicon Focus enough information to work with to provide a sharp shot. You start to get problems if you accidentally miss areas and then you just got a bit of a blurry patch. So this looks great. I'm going to press save. We can just save it anywhere, and then I can re-import it into Lightroom. And just after the stacking, I don't think there's much I really need to do. This really does look great. There is so much detail in here. I can see almost no errors in the stacking. Everything's been done really well. This little bit here isn't ideal, but we could neaten that up and it would only take a couple of seconds in Photoshop if we wanted to. I can't be bothered. So I'm going to instead do a couple of basic tweaks to this. I am just going to slightly increase the exposure because it does look a little dark to my eye. Up those shadows ever so slightly, and also just bring down the highlights just to help balance it out. We don't want to go too far because I think most of this image is highlights. So if we bring that down too much, actually, you know what? That's pretty good. Yeah, let's bring them down all the way. Why not? Cool. So before and after, yeah, we've literally just raised it up a little bit. Actually, let's not go all the way down. Let's play around with our colors, because I actually think the white balance was pretty spot on in camera, but I do want to just slightly adjust some of the colors in the flower itself. I'm going to start off with the yellows and just see if by increasing that luminance, if you pay attention to some of the water droplets, increasing that luminance in the yellow really helps those individual droplets stand out even more, and I really like that. So I'm going to increase that by plus 28, a decent amount. I imagine most of the colors in the flower are going to be oranges and reds, and I think that is indeed the case. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the hue of the orange and I'm going to push it more towards the yellow. Now, at the moment, that's going to kind of make everything one sort of orange tone. But crucially, with the reds, if I push this into the oranges, everything would just go basically the same color. We don't want that at all. But I'm going to counter what we've done with the oranges by pushing the reds a bit more into the sort of lovely scarlety red, something like this, which I think looks great. I'm going to bring down. No, I'm not. I'm just going to leave the luminance where it was. I'm not going to mess. Because I think that just gives it a little bit of sort of tonal separation. So now we've got slightly more defined red against an orange, rather than before it all was basically one sort of orangey red tone. We've now got a little bit more separation. It's not crucial, to be honest. It's just helping balance it out just that little bit. I actually think I might just bring down the luminance there just a tad. The rest of it I think looks great. With the background, what I'm going to do, because it is sort of, it's not quite a purple, it's not quite a blue, I'm going to play with the hue here, but crucially I'm actually going to take it to a much more bluey tone, because if you looked at the color wheel, you would have orange on one side and sort of a cyany blue on the other. Now that's called a complementary tone, and in color science, having two complementary colors together is generally considered to be more pleasing, and you can do that so easily by just grabbing the hue slider and moving it across. And as you can see, if I drag that hue of the purple over, it's made it more blue. And I could probably do the same with the blue as well. I don't want to go too far, because otherwise we then start to get a very, well, whatever tone that is, but somewhere maybe around sort of -9. Looks good. Back in the purple, if I just up that luminance, what it's doing, because we've got more of the tone in the middle of the frame, it's actually kind of creating more of an effect of a spotlight behind the flower, which I think looks really, really cool. So I'm going to ramp that. You know what? It's going all the way up. It's going right up there. I might do a little bit with the blue as well. Not too much, because it'll start to sort of wash the color out, but just plus 20. And then overall, look at the huge amount of difference that we've made in this image. I'm only turning off the color mixer at this point. Just turning that off. That one tool makes a huge, huge amount of difference to our photo overall. If we look at the whole thing before and after, it's absolutely transformed it. I think that looks really, really nice. We could have a look down at our effects and maybe add in a little bit of clarity and texture. To be honest, because it's so pin sharp, because we've done our focus stacking and there's so many fine details with the water droplets, I think adding too much clarity is going to look really weird. It's going to go crunchy quickly. So I think if I did use any at all, I'd want to be very subtle, just like a +5 to help give just an extra little touch to those water droplets, and maybe the same with the texture, because again, it starts to look weird and over-processed, and I don't like that at all. So maybe +10 with the texture. If we turn that off and on, we should barely be able to see it. And indeed, I can't really. Maybe if we zoomed in on some of the droplets and did the same again, I can barely see it, and I imagine with YouTube's compression, you probably can't see a thing. But I think that looks great. I am really, really pleased for just a few minutes of editing with the shot that we've been able to get here. I've really enjoyed taking this photo. I think it's fun, I think it's vibrant, and as you've seen, it was actually really quite simple to do. Once I got my lights in place, it was just a case of doing that focus stack, which I've done manually, and all of a few minutes work in the edit. But I also think it shows the power of working with multiple lights in macro photography, because you can completely control how the light falls on your subject, and then also have that creative control of lighting your background separately. And sure, maybe if you're out and about in the forest, you might not want to do that, but certainly if you're experimenting with macro at home, wanting to do projects like this, it can be really powerful. So if you do have two flashes that you can link with a transmitter like this, or a third-party transmitter system, then definitely I recommend giving it a go and spending some time experimenting. But that brings me to an end of today's video. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then please do hit that like button, and of course consider subscribing to my channel if you don't already, and I will see you next time.